Hello, everybody, and welcome to our contribution on the role of symbolic competence in critical virtual exchange. I'm Mirjam Hauck, and my academic home is the Open University in the UK.
And I'm Müge Satar, and I'm at Newcastle University in the UK.
Right. So here are our talking points. We are going to start with some general observations regarding virtual exchange and then zoom in very quickly on critical virtual exchange. We are going to look at the interface between critical digital literacy and critical virtual exchange and symbolic competence and critical virtual exchange. And then we are going to draw on an example to illustrate our theoretical observations, and we wrap up with some thoughts on the implications of our work for practice and research in virtual exchange. Now let's begin with what we know about virtual exchange. We are talking about pedagogically structured online collaborative learning between groups of students who are in different cultural contexts and usually also in different geographical locations. Virtual exchange combines the deep impact of intercultural dialogue with the broad reach of digital technology. It originates in the learning and teaching of languages and cultures and is a form of computer-assisted language learning. It has been hailed as an experiential language learning opportunity and offers authentic or at least semi-authentic language interactions. It is also a strong catalyst in advancing the internationalization of higher education curricula, also known as internationalization at home. It can prepare, forward organize, or deepen, extend, or even emulate physical exchanges, as we've seen in particular during the COVID-19 pandemic. It is also known to prepare students for the globalized digital workplace, and it is also known to promote the development of transversal skills in learners such as curiosity, empathy, conflict transformation, problem solving, teamwork. And these skills feature high on the agenda of businesses and organizations who are currently confronted with an environment characterized by VUCA, an environment that is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous as a result of the COVID pandemic for at least another decade. But virtual exchange practices are still often electives that are available only to some students. This is one of the findings from the Erasmus Plus funded EVOLVE project, evidence validated online learning through virtual exchange. And virtual exchange-based internationalization at home is not inherently equitable and inclusive. Just the opposite, actually. It can reproduce or even perpetuate existing exclusion. It can even create new digital inequalities. It is prone to Western hegemonies, given that the exchanges can be influenced by the teaching partner's academic positions, the linguistic competence of the students, access to and experience with the use of technology. There can also be institutional constraints, and there can be issues related to gender, race, age, and also geopolitical challenges. This is why I've recently proposed that we move from virtual exchange to critical virtual exchange. And this is a framework I've presented that is virtual exchange that systematically uses low bandwidth technologies, that with a focus on exchanges that specifically target student populations that are traditionally underrepresented in study abroad or internationalization at home programs, mostly students from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. Exchanges that systematically align with the outcomes or project outcomes with United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and that systematically include local outreach activities. That is, during the exchanges, the students are in contact with local businesses, NGOs, nonprofit organizations, and they bring that work into the virtual exchange project with their partners. And in addition, I would like to propose as a fifth pillar, the systematic integration of translanguaging approaches as a defining element of critical virtual exchange. And not only in exchanges where the learning and teaching of languages and cultures is the focus, but in all exchanges. Translanguaging, the fluid use of multiple linguistic and semiotic resources as a combined repertoire, the learner's semiotic repertoire, the learner's semiotic budget. And it is about practices that encourage all learners to use their full semiotic repertoire and to allow them to realize their full multimodal communication potential, something that we see as the precondition for exercising symbolic power. And we will say a little bit more about symbolic power in a moment. Now, we also see a clear interface between critical virtual exchange, critical call, and critical digital literacy. Critical call, which is about the engagement with issues of power and inequality and an understanding of how our classrooms and conversations are related to broader social, cultural, and political issues. Critical digital literacy, which is an awareness of how meanings are represented in ways that maintain and reproduce relations of power online. Such awareness, we propose, is needed for agentive and influential involvement in online language learning communities, but in online learning communities in general. And it is also needed to overcome inequalities and to be inclusive by supporting others in having a presence and a voice online. Now let's take very quickly a closer look at the interface between critical digital literacy and critical virtual exchange. The environments that are used for the exchanges are usually not ideologically neutral. They steer learners to normative behaviors and meanings, and they shape how learners position each other and how they perform identities. And we have shown how learners' varied levels of digital literacies, multimodal communicative competence, and semiotic skills impact on their virtual exchange experiences. And we've also shown that learners who can represent their meanings and identities online by capitalizing, by drawing maximum benefit from the available modes and the media and their affordances, so with what Gramsci calls symbolic competence, that these learners will have comparatively more symbolic power than their peers during the exchanges. And this is in line, this conceptualization is in line with an understanding of language as a social semiotic system and culture as a process of meaning making, culture as a symbolic practice, as Gramsci and 𝘠𝘭 2016 have put it. Now in Satar and Hauck 2021, we have pointed to the fact that critical digital literacy also presupposes a degree of critical consciousness in relation to technology use. And in saying that, we drew on Kant's 2014 call for a relational pedagogy, which encourages learners to consider past and present literacy practices. And Kant's aim is to develop among students a disposition for paying critical attention to relations among forms, contexts, meanings, and ideologies. And we suggest that critical virtual exchange provides an ideal context to do this. And with this, I hand you over to Müge and an example that illustrates this.
Thank you, Mirjam. So this example that we are going to illustrate, the charger bag, is from Anna Sevilla Pavon and Anna Nicolau. published in 2022 in the Computer Assisted Language Learning Journal. And their study examines the co-construction and sharing of authentic and meaningful artifacts within the Youth Entrepreneurship for Society virtual exchange. The project, Anna's 𝘊𝘮𝘪𝘵 𝘠𝘪𝘠 project, adopted a critical computer-assisted language learning perspective where English language teaching serves for globalization and for empowering learners to seek justice and emancipation. So in terms of the critical virtual exchange task design, first, one of the key features of their exchange is public engagement, where the classroom connects with the outside world through the involvement of mentor civil local organizations. Second, there is a focus on alignment with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals as the project tasks revolve around social entrepreneurship to promote social justice. Third, the context is internationalization at home in higher education with an aim to improve students' 21st century competencies such as intercultural, linguistic, digital, and teamwork skills, as well as social entrepreneurial mindset. Finally, the project uses Google Plus Community, which is accessible to all participants through tools such as an online drive, online word processor, and presentation software. And as described by the authors, students work in international groups of 4 over 15 weeks, and they get in touch with social organizations, identify main challenges faced by those organizations, discuss and provide solutions, and link to their local communities. Discuss and provide solutions linked to their local community social issues through virtual exchange as they interact with their international partners, and then present their own initiatives in the form of digital stories and elevator pitches, which were then delivered in a fictitious social entrepreneurship fair. So, for example, for the specific student artifact, the charger bag that we're going to introduce in the next slide, the students worked with the Malva community radio station to create a product to raise awareness about ecology, addressing SDG 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure. So this group produced a video of 3 minutes and 22 seconds as their elevator pitch. The discourse structure of the output included 6 steps. The first 2 offer a problem and a solution. The next 2 provide information about the product and the company. And the 5th and the 6th steps focus on a sales pitch. What you see here on this slide is the first step, which presents the problem of what happens when you do not have enough charge on your laptop. The students achieve this by acting out 3 different scenarios where a person cannot complete the task that they have at hand because they run out of battery. The scenarios are dramatized by speech, which expressions like, oh no, how am I going to finish my task now? But also dramatized using gestures and facial expressions, as you see on the right-hand side of the screen, and with the use of black and white frames and sometimes pauses. And once the situation is problematized, then a need is created. The students then offer a solution by explicitly saying, I have the solution to your problem. And here we observe a smiling facial expressions, direct gaze at the camera, and a didactic pointing gesture directly addressing and engaging the audience. The third step involves explaining what the solution is. The students present a bag which can charge digital devices powered by kinetic energy without the need to plug it in. They introduce the product as brand new, practical, eco-friendly, and suitable for all ages. The 4th step adds credibility to the product. The students introduce the company, DRAN, that produces the charger bag, but they also include the fact that the company is a high-tech company. It has invested a huge amount of money to the design of the product, and that company engineers have worked diligently on the design. The last 2 discourse steps aim to attract customers. The students achieve this by first providing the product details. They suggest that the product is reasonably priced, that it is easy to buy on their website, and special discounts are available through the Black Friday discount sales. They then use 3 persuasion or selling techniques. First, they mention the awards they have received. Second, they use a celebrity, Cristiano Ronaldo, to endorse the product. And third, they suggest that the charger bag is high in demand with very limited availability. We will now play the artifact video for the first two steps, like for about a minute of the discourse structure, and then briefly explore students' symbolic competence using 𝘊𝘂𝘪𝘵𝘪𝘤𝘢's visual grammar.
Oh, come on, hurry up. I need to find a charger or I will lose the work I've been working during 3 hours right now. Come on, where is the charger? I need to find it. Oh no. No, my phone already died. Let's work, guys.
Okay. Alex, can you share us your work?
Yes, give me a moment, please.
Oh, I'm running out of battery! Oh no!
Oh my god, I forgot to charge my laptop and my phone tonight. I don't know what I'm going to do.
What are you going to do?
I don't know. I'm out all day.
Oh no!
Hey guys, tired of your situation?
Yeah, I have the solution to your problem.
Okay, thank you, Mirjam. At this point, if anybody else has experienced not smooth video transmission, I would like to invite everyone to go to YouTube. Apologies, both Mirjam and I are on weak internet connections due to personal circumstances. Here, we focus on how the students act out the problem situation in 3 scenarios and use digital editing tools and multimodal resources to enhance dramatic effect and in their book, Reading Images, the Grammar of Visual Design, they outline 3 meta functions: representational, interactive, and compositional elements. In terms of the representational meta function, the narrative processes are transactional when an actor interacts with the other actors in the scene. Transactional processes, contrasting color and saturation, expressive facial expressions, and gestures increase psychological salience for the audience. According to Kress and Van Wooven, the interactive metafunction is realized by 4 factors: contact, social distance, attitude, and modality. Contact is related to demand requested from or offer provided to the audience, while eye gaze directed towards the camera requires demand and creates a sense of engagement. Indirect eye gaze focuses audience attention on interaction between the actors. The 3 scenarios in the charger bag video largely create an illusion that the actors do not know that they are being looked at, thus adding suspension of disbelief. There are 2 moments when the audience is actively engaged, as one of the actors use direct gaze towards the camera. Once during the 3rd scenario, as you see here on the left-hand side of your screen, and once when he offers the solution, as you see on the screenshot on the right-hand side. For social distance, according to Kress and Van Wooven, closer shots and frames focusing on the head and shoulders make the audience feel closer to the represented participant and thus increase involvement, intimacy, and empathy. In the charger bag video, the camera zooms in on the participant experiencing the battery problem and enables the audience to connect to the actor's feelings of frustration. Attitude is related to whether participants are shown with a frontal or oblique angle. With a frontal angle, the audience has a greater feeling of being involved into the atmosphere. Again, the scenarios are largely shot at an oblique angle, and a frontal angle is only used when audience engagement is invited. Finally, modality markers of the interactive metafunction, such as color saturation and digital effects, and compositional elements of placement in the foreground or background, relative size, contrasts in color, and differences in sharpness are effectively utilized in this video, in the charger bag video, to attract audience attention. Mirjam, I now hand over to you again.
Okay, thank you, Müge. Now, what are the implications for practice and research? I think we have shown how such a critical virtual exchange can foster students' critical consciousness, in particular, help them pay attention, critical attention to how forms, contexts, meanings, and ideologies are interwoven. Yeah, this is critical digital literacy. And I think it also shows the example that critical virtual exchange can be a sandpit for acquiring and experimenting with symbolic competence, if not even with symbolic power. Yeah, and both together, this critical digital literacy and symbolic competence allow learners, critical virtual exchange participants, to exercise agency, have a voice, and help others have a voice online. The key, as we have seen, is in task design. And for that, the social entrepreneurship project and the charger-back example are good instantiations of the tasks that are needed in CVE and that need to be researched further in the future. And with this, we say thank you. And here are our references.
Thank you for watching, everyone. And we hope to interact with you in our live session.